Making elderflower wine is one of the cheapest, easiest, and most rewarding drinks you can possibly make. So let's pop open a bottle of last year's elderflower wine and talk about how to make it. Cheers. Elderflowers are in bloom in the spring and summer, so it's the perfect time to pick some up and make some wine. It's a straightforward process that requires just a few simple ingredients, so let's get started. Elderflowers grow in abundance in the countryside, and once you know how to spot them, you'll see them everywhere. You can check out my previous video about how to make elderflower cordial to learn how to identify and harvest elderflowers. The equipment that you're going to need includes a fermenting bucket with a lid, a demijohn, a bung and airlock, a large spoon of some description, a funnel, a mesh bag or cloth, some sort of siphon or tubing, and if you want to know the exact ABV, you're going to need a hydrometer. So there's not that many ingredients that you need, and a lot of them you can get from a supermarket. So all you're gonna need is a pint of elderflower petals. You wanna get rid of as much of the green parts as possible. You'll want 8 pints of boiling water, 3 pounds of sugar. You'll want to grate the rind of 2 lemons. Try and avoid getting any of the white parts. The juice of those 2 lemons, or alternatively, you can use 2 teaspoons of citric acid instead. A Campden tablet, which you probably won't find in the supermarket, but it's readily available on eBay and other sites, and it's pretty cheap. 1 teaspoon of wine tannins, but to be honest, I think the better option here is to use 150 mils of very stewed breakfast tea. A packet of white wine yeast. You can alternatively use different types of yeast, such as Kveik yeast here, but really if you want the most traditional flavors on this drink, then you'll want to use wine yeast. Finally, you'll need a teaspoon of yeast nutrient. So in your fermenting bucket, you'll want to combine the elderflower petals, the lemon juice, the lemon rind, the sugar, the tea, as well as the boiling water, and then give that all a really good stir. You then need to put that somewhere to cool until it gets to about 20 degrees Celsius, and it should look like this. Once it's cooled, add your Campden tablet to kill harmful bacteria, add your teaspoon of yeast nutrient to help kick off a healthy fermentation, and then sprinkle on your wine yeast. Pop on your lids along with your airlock and put it somewhere for a week at around 20 degrees Celsius. You'll want to then give it a stir every single day for the first 4 days of that week-long fermentation. At this point, it's time to get rid of the petals and the rind and everything else apart from the liquid from your fermenter. I use a sanitized food-grade mesh bag and a bucket to do this. Once you've transferred the elderflower wine, it's worth giving the mesh bag a squeeze so to get every drop of that wine. You'll want to be sanitizing everything as you go along. I personally use Star San. Now all you need to do is use the sterilized funnel to pour the elderflower wine into a demijohn. Pop on a bung and airlock and leave that to ferment between a week and a month, just until you get to a point where there's absolutely no activity with your airlock. That will suggest to you that the fermentation is complete. So it's now ready to bottle. There's loads of different ways that you can bottle. You'll have to look at different videos to learn them. I personally went for the method where I just use my beer bottling equipment, and so I use brown bottles with caps. But you could look into using swing bottles or even using real wine bottles. So here's last year's elderflower wine. As you can see, it's very clear. It has got a little yellowness to it, which has come from the pollen in the elderflower, and it smells so good. It smells a lot like elderflower. But more importantly, let's give it a taste. It's got a real elderflower deliciousness to it. Yeah, quite floral in its taste, and there is that sweetness that comes from elderflower, and it's really delicious. I have to say it tastes quite boozy. It tastes more boozy than what it did, say, about 1 or 2 months after I originally bottled it. So I would say it's probably best to drink it maybe like between 3 and 6 months after you originally bottled it, but I kind of forgot about the elderflower wine, and here we are. drinking it after almost a year. I'm really pleased with it though. I think it's really delicious and it is so cheap to make. I'm going to be making way more this year so that we can happily drink it throughout the spring and summer next year. Check out this next video where you can learn all about how to make elderflower cordial.